All right, which one of you went to the voodoo wizard before the season started? Because we got a hex, we got to unhex, and we got to unhex it fast. Hey all, I'm Chris. This is the Sabercast. It's been a couple days. I'm sorry about that. I actually meant to have a video out about all the news that's been going on around the Sabres out kind of yesterday, but much like the Sabres, the fates were not in my favor, so I wasn't able to quite do that. So I decided just to kind of put it all into one super video. So we'll be talking about, obviously, the injury and health-related news that have been following the Sabres around like kind of a black little rain cloud above our heads. We'll be talking about kind of what should be done about it. Is there any possibility of the organization making a trade? Is there any path forward in that regard? Or are they going to stand pat and just kind of roll with what they have, the kids in Rochester? And is that maybe a good play? We'll look into the probabilities of what could be done in that situation. And, of course, we're going to try to preview this game against Utah on the road here on Wednesday evening. So Sabres will be getting back in action this week. They have 3 games to go on this road trip, and they desperately need to find a way to get 4 points in these next 3 games against Utah, Colorado, and Detroit. I don't think it's impossible. I think we have a shot here against Utah, a team that's also struggling. But if they don't get them, we gotta brace ourselves for what could be kind of a difficult road ahead here. It's very important that the Sabres come out and they get off this losing streak as soon as possible. But we're going to talk about all that. What are the odds? Can we do it against Utah? Why is Utah struggling? We'll try to get into all of that in this video. So we got a lot to cover. So without any further ado, let's roll right into it by looking at the injury news. Now, obviously, it's been all over the world. We're dealing with a lot of stuff. And the primary stories center around Jiri Kulich, Jason Zucker, and a little bit around Zach Benson. We'll touch on all of those guys now. So we'll start with Jiri Kulich because I think that is the one that has the longest term impact. We thought it was just fluid in the ears. That's all we'd been told, and it kind of was a nagging illness, maybe an ear infection, maybe something related to that. But it turns out it's the worst possible thing you could imagine. It is a blood clot. And the ear issue was related to a blood clot that Jiri Kulich is dealing with. But, blood clots are always serious. If something breaks off, it can cause a significant health issue. And they're going to have him probably on medication to treat it. Lindy Ruff said whether or not he'll play again. He says maybe. He's going to say yes, but it's going to depend on the next 3 to 4 weeks. So even if he is to play again this season, he's going to miss a significant amount of time just trying to recover from this. Usually the treatment for blood clots involves blood thinners, and it would be very difficult to play a kind of a contact sport when you're on blood thinners. So I imagine they'll have to clear the clot in its entirety before he's even able to think about coming back and playing. So, of course, for Jiri Kulich, it is all about his health first, so we obviously wish him all the best in his recovery. Blood clots are terribly serious and can have very serious side effects, so hopefully everything goes well. He's able to recover fully and come back and play again, not just this season, but at some point in his career, because if it's a chronic sort of issue, it could be career affecting. So obviously all the best to him, but he's a very difficult guy to replace on a team where we're already very thin at center, and a team that's already struggling in a lot of regards at center. So Jiri Kulich's a big loss, as he was a guy who could kind of, when he's at his best, could play up and down the lineup. Now, we noticed this year he'd been struggling. We don't know how long he's been dealing with this ear issue, but even if he wasn't dealing with an ear issue, if it was a blood clot related issue, it could have had other effects, which was slowing his skating down. He hasn't looked right at all this season, and I think now we could be getting to the bottom of why. So hopefully the treatment on him is successful and he's able to come back strong, whether it's this season or not. At this point, as fans, I think we just have to be concerned with his overall health. But yes, it's a big loss for the Sabres. And another big loss for the Sabres has been Jason Zucker, who's been out with this kind of mysterious illness. Now, all they've said is that it is a viral, flu-like sort of illness. It's also said that he has not been able to eat solid food, and he has lost about 10 pounds thus far over the course of this illness. He's undergone tests. He's still not doing well, and he is not going to join this team for this 3-game road trip. Obviously, Utah, Colorado, Detroit. Zucker's going to be out for those 3 games. Hopefully, at the conclusion of the road trip, he's able to come back. But if he's lost 10 pounds, it's going to be tough. He's going to have to get back up to playing weight. He's going to probably take a significant time to recover. So I don't think this is one that's going to be quick either for Jason Zucker. Those are 2 very big losses to miss Kulich and miss Zucker. You're basically losing 2 top 6 forwards there. And you're missing with Zucker a guy who is kind of your set winger on the power play who is playing the defensive role. So that's a really big loss. And hopefully he gets back to action here by the end of the month, I would say. As far as Zach Benson, he's missed the 3 games with a lower body injury, which is still nagging, but he has not rejoined the team. And at the last breath, it was still up for discussion whether or not he would join this road trip or not. Now, last week he said maybe he could join against Utah. Now it's a question as whether or not he'll join the road trip. So it doesn't sound like much progress is being made on that front either. So a lot of folks dealing with a lot of problems right now. That is 3 top 6 forwards who are out. So obviously guys are coming up, going down. Guys are moving around the lineup. But it's not good news. Any of the injury news has not been good from the Sabres side. They haven't heard anything else regarding pretty much anybody else. Everyone is still where they were at last report. So this is all news that is not good. Nobody is coming back perhaps for this road trip, which is, of course, a big concern. When you looked at the practice lines on Tuesday, the practice lines were the same as the forwards were the same as what we had deployed against Carolina, with the McLeod, Tuck, Thompson top line, Kozak, Greenway, Doan second line, Oslin, Rosane, Quinn third line, and Krebs, Mallenstein, Dunn fourth line. I imagine those lines will stay pretty much the same. For the defensive pairings, they were mixing and matching some guys. Samuelson, Power were the top pairing. Byram, Timmins were the second pairing. Bryson, Kesselring was the third pairing. Jones, Gerritsen was the fourth pairing for practice. I do wonder if Jones is going to get a game, but he seems to have been pretty much in the doghouse. I'm surprised they even called him up at this point. But I do hope he'll get a game here at some point to kind of show what he can do. The Tuesday goalie situation, they weren't able to tell a starter from it. Of course, Lyon, Lucan, and Ellis all competing at this point for starts. It's unknown who's going to get the game against Utah. It has been reported that Ellis is going to get a game on this road trip. I would guess that's probably the Colorado game, though I could see them deploying Lyon in Colorado because that's probably the most offensive team we play, so you'd play your best goaltender. Maybe they play all 3 on this trip. It'll be very interesting to see what they do with the goaltending situation. I would hope for us in terms of winning games that Lyon gets 2 and Ellis gets 1, but as far as which one they'll get, we'll see. And also there may be desire from the front office to play Luukkonen to try to continue to showcase him for a potential trade. I think that is a possibility as well. Look, obviously the Sabres are an extremely shorthanded hockey team right now. Obviously this year has not gone how anybody expected, and that has led a lot of folks to start talking about trades. We need guys. We need center depth. We need all of this. But look, I don't think it's going to happen, honestly. I don't think trades are going to be made unless they're going to help us immediately in the short term, and those are guys who you're very unlikely to get this early in the season. Look, if you're Kevin Adams and you're thinking about, let's try to sell off pieces to build a team for the future, like I've heard people talking about trading Thompson. I've heard people talking about trading Tuck since he only has a year left and doesn't seem keen to resign here. You've had people talking about trade Power, trade Luukkonen. Look, all of those guys are considered to be pieces of this team. If you're Kevin Adams and you're potentially in the last year that it's gonna be tolerated, like if he was given an ultimatum that you have to make the playoffs to keep your job, there's gonna be no trades of Thompson and Tuck at any point here. Power, maybe Luukkonen's the only one I can reasonably see because those are all guys who are your core and you need them to maintain a competitive stance on the season. If you trade any one of those guys, it's kind of, you're waving the white flag. And if this again is indeed Kevin Adams' kind of year where he has to make the playoffs, no white flag is going to be waived. I do think it would be better for the organization if we're going to embark on a full rebuild to trade Thompson at some point this season. But I think at this point in time, a lot of teams are going to hold on to their guys to try to raise the asking price as we get closer to the deadline and teams increase in desperation. I do think you can get a pretty nice package for Thompson at the deadline if you do decide to move him then. But I think trying to move someone like him early in the year is very unlikely. Now, Luukkonen, you might be able to move earlier. But again, I think if we're going to move anybody, it's going to be at the deadline and we're going to be kind of out of it. I don't think we're going to be pursuing for pieces at this point in time. Short-term deals would be good if you're trying to get the team in competition, if you're Kevin Adams and you're really desperate. But, he's someone who is so ridiculously positive about the players he's brought in. And I think he always looks at injuries as basically transactions. I don't think he's going to be in a hurry to make any moves in this situation. So I don't see any trades coming. I think they're going to try to go with the guys they have. And if there's any additional injuries, I think they're going to rely on more call-ups than trying to patch through trades. Now, if we're trying to be future-minded, I would say, yeah, go ahead and trade some of these guys and call up guys from Rochester and just let it go. See what you have in the tank. But at the same time, you don't want to rush call-ups because that's not always good for their development either. We've gotten into trouble with that in the past. So as much as it sucks, I honestly believe the best thing for this team to do is try to win with the guys they have now and hold the valuable guys for the deadline where you can get more value for them. I know that doesn't sound very exciting or good probably to a lot of you, but I think it's the only thing we can do right now is get the guys back from injury, try to do what we can this year, try to make the playoffs with what we have this year. Hopefully it gets better. And if it doesn't, then you got to tear down, I think. But that's just my opinion. The dangerous thing is that if this team rallies when they get their guys back and then falls short of the playoffs again, they might decide to give everyone involved an extension, which we don't want to see, I think. I think this team was lost the second they did not get a veteran center in with the Norris. They got the Norris trade, sure, but you have a guy who's basically never played. So at that point, you should have brought in a veteran center or some high-quality center to serve as depth. And when they didn't do that, it kind of set up the whole downfall here. I do believe in this defensive core. I think this defensive group they have actually can be very good, especially with the additions of Timmins and Kesselring. Kesselring has not quite got back up to speed yet. Samuelson's has had a great season. Byram's been down. Power's been down. But Timmins has been very good. Samuelson's been very good. You can get Dahlin back and playing well mentally. You can get Byram up to speed. Even if Power doesn't come along, that's 4 quality defensemen. And then, Bryson is not great, but he's an average 6th or 7th guy. And Power can be a guy on the roster. Certainly, I think he's someone you want to try to replace down the road. But the defensive core is not an issue, and Lyon has not been an issue. It's really just the forward depth is problematic right now. But you do have some guys there who can play. Thompson can play. Doan can play. Tuck can play. McLeod can play. It's just you run out of depth very quickly. Like Kozak is not a second-line center. Ostlund is a really good passer, but he hasn't shown he can hold up. But I think Ostlund, Rosane are pretty good. And look, I know a lot of the fan base is done with Jack Quinn. I've seen enough in Jack Quinn's game and his contributions that he can still do it. I know folks are out of patience with him, but I think the effort is there. And as long as the effort is there, I don't think you give up on a guy entirely. So maybe I'm delusional. You can tell me that in the comments below. I won't be offended. I've been called much worse in my time. But I think Quinn can do it. I think playing him on the third line with those kids is appropriate. I think it's going to help get him going. I love the Ostlund, Rosane, Quinn line as a concept right now. I like the Kozak, Greenway, Doan line as a concept. And I love, of course, the fourth line, Krebs, Mallenstein, Dunn. I would put them up against any fourth line in the league right now. I don't think this team is totally dead, but I just think they've had so many changes in a short period of time. It's very hard to build continuity with that. It's very hard to create a style with that. So hopefully with a couple of practices now coming into this game, they've had the Monday and the Tuesday. They've had the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday to prepare. They've had a bit of a break. I think we'll see a much better effort here against Utah. And make no mistake, this is a struggling Utah team. Before we get into that game matchup as a whole, though, I want to look at where the standings are. Tuesday night, you had some good results go our way in the Atlantic Division. The Bruins beat the Maple Leafs 5-3. The Bruins are on a 7-game winning streak right now. That is amazing. I don't know if they can hold that up the whole year, but they are on fire. Montreal was blown out by the Kings 5-1. Maybe the start of a bit of a slowdown for them. Ottawa got another overtime point as they lost to the Stars 3-2 in overtime. That was the extent of the Atlantic Division action. And where that leaves the standings currently in the Atlantic is as follows. So Buffalo is in 8th place, 14 points through 15 games. Still have the only sub-500 winning point percentage in the conference. Toronto is in 7th place, 17 from 17. They are at 500 overall. The Florida Panthers have worked their way up to 6th, 17 points in 16 games. Detroit is on a 3-game losing streak. They've fallen all the way back to 5th, 18 points in 16 games. Tampa Bay on a 2-game winning streak, and they're 7-3 in their last 10. They have 18 points from 15 games. That is good for 4th, but points percentage would put them in 3rd. Ottawa is currently in 3rd in points with 20 points through 17 games, .588 point percentage. Boston is actually in 2nd, and they are legitimately in 2nd with that point percentage, 22 points through 18 games. They have won 7 straight in 8 of their last 10. And, of course, Montreal's in 1st place. They have 22 points through 16 games. But they're cooling off a little bit at this point in time. So you can look at the good. You can look at the bad, right? The bad is that the Sabres are totally in last place. They're the worst team in the conference. They're the only team with a sub-500 point percentage. The good news is they're only 6 points out of 3rd place with 2 games in hand. 4 points out of 4th place with Tampa Bay. So at worst, you're 4 points back. You have 2 in hand on the 3rd place team, who you're 6 back from. Both of those teams have been fairly hot in the last 10 and should cool off. Again, if you're Buffalo and you can hold serve on this road trip and end this 4-game road trip with 4 points and a 500 record, you keep yourself in the fight. And that for the Sabres is the number one thing right now. You have to keep yourself in the fight. You got to find ways to win these games on this road trip. And I mean, Detroit's cold and Utah's cold. So there is a reasonable pathway here where they can beat Utah and beat Detroit. I don't expect much against Colorado. Colorado's lost 1 game in regulation the whole season. They're 11-1-5. They've won 4 straight. I mean, they're plus 25 goal differential. They are far and away right now the best team in hockey. So I don't think we can expect much in that one. But, I mean, Utah's lost 3 straight. They're 9-7. They've fallen down to 5th place in that Central Division. They're behind the Chicago Blackhawks right now. That's a team that right now is struggling, despite the fact they're 4-1 at home. They've had a bad trip recently. The Mammoth have lost 5 of their last 6 games. Their only win came against Buffalo. They haven't played a lot of... They've played a lot of tough teams. It was basically an Atlantic Division tour. They have losses to Tampa Bay, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, and Edmonton during that stretch. But they're kind of falling back down to earth. Buffalo has to catch them in this situation. So let's go in and look at the 2 teams a little bit more. For the Utah Mammoth, they are paced in scoring by Nick Schmaltz. Schmaltz has 19 points through 16 games, 9 goals, 10 assists. He's been very, very good. Clayton Keller has 15 points, 6 goals, and 9 assists through 16 games. And Logan Cooley, 13 points. Dylan Gunther, 13 points. Cooley has 8 goals, 5 assists. Gunther has 6 goals, 7 assists. Those are the leading 4 scorers for the Utah Mammoth. Overall, the Mammoth are averaging 3.19 goals per game, which is 15th in the league, right in the middle of the pack. And they are conceding 3.13 goals per game, which is tied for 16th, right in the middle of the pack. So basically, they allow the same number of goals they score. They are the definition of an average hockey team right now. So, for Buffalo, the Sabres are paced in scoring by Alex Tuck, who has 14 points on the year, 6 goals, 8 assists. Second is Tage Thompson with 12 points and 6 goals. And then third is Josh Doan with 9 points and 4 goals. The number 4 active scorer right now is Ryan McLeod with 8 points through 15 games, 3 goals, 5 assists. And then the next most active one is Jack Quinn with 7 points through 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points through the 15 games. The Sabres number 4, number 6, and number 7 scorers are all inactive for this trip. Benson is 6th, Dahlin is 4th, Zucker is 7th right now. So, yeah, the Sabres have trouble finding goals. We know that by the fact that they just have not been able to score. If you go back to their last win, they scored 3 goals in the first period, and between that time and the third period against Carolina, that is basically 3 games, they scored 2 goals. Then they scored 2 in the third period against Carolina, made that number look a little bit better, but make no mistake, the Sabres are struggling to score. On the season, the Sabres are averaging 2.67 goals per game. That is tied for 26th in the league. They are allowing 3.27 goals per game. That is 23rd in the league. Special teams for both of these teams, the power plays are not special. The Sabres power play, 17.4%, tied for 24th. But outside of that little stretch in games 6 through 10, the power play for the Sabres has been a disaster, an absolute unmitigated disaster. Utah also struggling on the power play, 16.3%. That's good for 27th in the league. So both power plays are not very good. Both teams are not very good in the faceoff circle. Utah 46.6% in the faceoff circle. That's 28th. Buffalo obviously last in the league, 42.9% in the faceoff circle. The Sabres have not won a game in terms of faceoffs. In terms of defense, we talked about it a little bit. In terms of the penalty kill, the Sabres are still number 1, tied for first in the league on the penalty kill, 89.6%. Utah is 16th in the league on the penalty kill, 79.1%. The Mammoth do not allow shots. They've allowed only 24 shots per game. That is first in the league far and away. The Sabres allow a lot of shots, 31.5. That is 29th in the league. So the Sabres allowing about 7 more shots per game than Utah is. In terms of shots on goal, both teams shoot a fair bit. Buffalo 28.9 shots on goal per game. Utah 29.3 shots on goal per game. So Utah has an average shots plus margin of 5. And then Buffalo averages about -3 in the shot on goal column. So honestly, the Sabres need to try to break through that and get rubber on net. The big issue when you face Utah is their speed. Buffalo is going to have trouble matching that. Very similar to Carolina. The first time the Sabres played the Mammoth, they held tough for the first period, but Utah really hit them in the third period. We've talked about a lot how to beat these speed teams. It involves you playing a bit slower. So you got to slow the pace down, bring the puck up ice, kind of not at a snail's pace, but at a turtle's pace. You have to have a lot of puck support. And then in the worst case, don't be afraid to lug it up ice yourself. But the one thing you don't want to do is go for the long passes, because the long passes, when they get broken up, they turn into counterattacks. And against teams with a lot of speed, those counterattacks turn into odd man rushes very, very quickly. The Sabres also in the offensive zone, you don't want to see a lot of blind cross-ice passes. Get pucks in deep. Get behind the net, work it around the zone. Make Utah play the type of game they don't want to play. The Sabres have got to be more versatile. They want to try the long passes. They want to try to have the beautiful cross-ice passes. But you got to dig in and cycle against teams with speed. And you got to play strong in the neutral zone. The one thing the Sabres have done very well, when they get pucks in deep, they're able to check in the neutral zone very well. Stick check in the neutral zone, get pucks on sticks, make it very difficult for teams to utilize their speed on their breakouts. It's one thing the Sabres have done excellently pretty much all season. But to do that, you have to get the pucks in deep. So it's the same story we talked about against Carolina. It's the same story we talked about the first time against Utah. Sabres have got to possess the puck and carry it in deep. Things they're not very good at, but things they can do. At times, they've shown that they can do it. I think the fourth line is going to be very capable of that. I think the second line is going to be very capable of that. The kids have to be careful. That kid line, Quinn, Ostlund, Rosane, they don't have to commit to it, but they have to bring the puck into the zone and support each other. And they have to be willing to go to the boards. Now, they did generate a goal in the first period against Carolina by doing just that, so I know they're capable. And the big one is the first line. Tuck, McLeod, Thompson. Thompson has to commit to playing a little bit more physically, and he has to commit to getting the stick in there a little bit more. And I know that's very difficult for him, But it's not going to work if only two guys on your line are committed to that style of play. It's not going to be sexy, but the only way you win this game is to be physical, to get pucks in deep, to work it around, and to take away Utah's speed. Easier said than done, but if the Sabres want to get out of this game with a win, they have to do it. So I want to see more hits. I want to see, I don't care if the shots are low, but we got to get more hits. We got to get more zone time, and we got to win some frickin' face-offs. We do those things, we can get our first win. But if we don't, we can get our first road win. But if we don't, this losing streak is going to continue. So those are my thoughts on this one. We got to get this one. This is a very important one. This and the Detroit game are the two we have to have on this road trip. We're not going to beat Colorado, I'm pretty sure. So this is one we have to have. Beat a team that's lost 3 straight. Be the better team in this situation. Both teams have lost 3 straight. The Sabres have got to be the better of those teams in this game. So those are my thoughts. What do you think about this game against Utah? What do you think about the injury situation? What do you think about the trade situation? Do you have any thoughts about anything we've talked about in this video? If you do, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave some comments down below. We will talk about it. Please feel free, if you enjoyed the video, to leave a like. If you want more Sabres hockey content, please subscribe to the channel. We would love to have you here. We'd love to be talking Sabres hockey with you. So please subscribe if you'd like more. Thank you all for watching. As always, go Sabres. Bye-bye.